The Ministry of Social Services, Information and Broadcasting is partnering with the Bahamas Christian Council to help build stronger Bahamian families.
I believe that our ultimate experience in living begins with God and family.
Our purpose is to facilitate, guide, inspire, and equip you to have a better life.
And a strong family foundation begins with each of us trying to become better individuals.
Let's unite for a stronger Bahamas.
This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Social Services, Information and Broadcasting, the heartbeat of the nation, leading Bahamians from dependency to self-sufficiency to economic empowerment.
You can now stay in tune with all things social services on any one of our social media platforms: TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, missed any of our Taking Social Services to the People programs? No worries. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Bahamas Heartbeat, to watch all of our programs and special content. Social Services is the heartbeat of the nation, taking our clients from dependency to self-sufficiency to economic empowerment.
Welcome to this very special edition of Taking Social Services to the People. Listen, this is a life-changing moment. I'm going to tell you that there is a shift in the country, and that shift has to include a mindset shift. We're going to talk about looking back to move forward. And really the sub-theme here is food security. I got these three good-looking men here. They are for a reason. They are diverse in their skill sets, but they are similar in vision. You're going to meet them in a moment, but what is so important, as we look behind us, there's bush, and there's some unattractive things here, but they look not with what they see physically, but they look through a lens of vision. That's the shift. We have to be visionary. What do you see when it appears like it's a junkyard? When it appears that there's just bush and there are unsurmountable problems. Hey, we are here to tell you that what we want to do is your dream represents the empire that you can have. And when you start, it doesn't look like something that you can achieve. But when you have the right team around you, and listen, what we're doing is putting the priorities in place again, restoring the priorities that are key to ensuring that we are what the social services says, from dependency to self-sufficiency to economic empowerment. We cannot be economically powered. Let's go back a little bit. We cannot be self-sufficient unless there is food security. How are we looking back? I remember a time when in our backyards it was just absolutely natural to have the farm. We didn't call it a farm. You all remember that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So I want them to introduce themselves, because what we have is a farming expert. Yes, dressed right down and casually elegant in this place that is being developed. Isn't this coconut? That's the ugly sight. But we're gonna find out what value this has with our health, our sustainable growth. And so, Mr. John Burrows, how are you?
I'm well.
Thank you so much. Tell us about what you do at the Ministry of Agriculture.
Well, I am with BAIC, a corporation with the Ministry of Agriculture. I am the Senior Manager for Agricultural Marketing for the corporation.
And we have our communications officer, not our communications officer, but our officer at the man's desk. He heads the man's desk. And when we talk about the man's desk, it is not the model for sustainable success. What does that mean? 71% of our homes are headed by women. No, we have some single parent homes with great children, but that's not the ideal for sustainability. And so at the Ministry of Social Services, we are looking to restore the order of God. Introduce yourself.
I am Pastor Leonardo A. Allen Jr., and I am a men's desk officer where we seek to empower men and boys in the country.
And there is a stigma, as we look back, that is perceived to be something less. It's less to work in agriculture. We were brainwashed with error to believe that dignity and honor comes in white-collar positions. And here is a former white-collar leader who has decided to come out of the corporation and build his dream in the bush, build it up. Introduce yourself, Mr. Burrows.
Hi, Ralph Burrows. Used to be a environmental health and safety corporate manager. Now I've replaced my energy and efforts into recycling, earthworks, and heavy equipment to help with the processing of all our green waste into reusable material and energy.
I want to commend you for that. And I must tell you that when we look at this farm, this is what I said in the beginning, vision. Vision sees beyond what is now. It sees where you're going. And without vision, the people throw off restraint. When we look at what is happening on the streets, a lot of men are out of position. They're committing the crimes and now influencing women to be involved in crime. We want to take a minute to look at the comparison and the similarities between what is needed for the nutrients in a dream like this that it needs to be fulfilled and the nutrients of what we need as humans to be successful, to see that that dream lives not only in the inside, because if it don't come out, it can die in the inside. Pastor Miles used to say a lot, the most wealthy place on earth is the grave, because a lot of people die with their dreams inside. What do you see for the dream that is inside of you? First, Mr. Ralph Burrows.
Processing, redirection, so much opportunity for this country to be in the era of sustainable material. As you pass so many places, there's green waste everywhere. I think through awareness, if we could educate the people, the country, the nation to see the benefits to recycling material, green waste, whether it might be from coconuts to trees, we take that to the next level where we repurpose it. We give it its time to sit and marinate, to get better, to go through its natural processing of decomposing, and then we invite it back into the country for people to look at, smell, touch, up with it, to use it. That's a new well-oiled machine system. Young men, the church, BAIC, the programs need a highway corridor to be for people to accept it and then fix it if necessary.
You gave a process, and that's what success requires, a process. We see a dream, it don't happen overnight. It's a long process with all these coconuts here. And so, Pastor Allen, we are talking about process and young men. We look at the young men, particularly in the inner cities, and we see them living in abject poverty and wandering and trying to find a place in life and choosing the wrong side of what I would call the enemy of progress. How does that, because you were saying just before we came on the air that you did farming as well, the foundation. Tell us what you did. And I want you to compare, in your experience, compare what is needed for farming to make the plant grow, to make this vision live, and the men who are walking in hopelessness and choosing a path of criminality, of corruption, of abandonment of their responsibilities at home?
The first place I'll start is that you have to identify your purpose, what you were created to do. And once you identify your purpose, you have to begin to walk in that purpose. Here's the thing for me, when I look at even these coconuts behind me, I see my life some years ago, just like these coconuts, all messed up, didn't have no real nourishment, or everything looked undefined. But through the process of connecting with a community that was positive, it helped me to now redefine who I am. Because being in an environment where the soil doesn't look good, you need constant manpower, like yourself doing all of this work here. You need people around you who can help too with the mulching. You need people around you who can help with the scanning. You need people around you who can help with the watering. Because if you look at a farm, they normally have beds. You got to poke hole in them. You got to stick the seed in those. You got to begin to water those and wait for it to grow. Unfortunately for me, I came up in an environment where the mulching wasn't all good, the scanning wasn't all good, the bed wasn't all fixed. I got introduced to, back in the 80s, the 80s and 90s, in Andros, where the drug trade was, heavy on our country. And I came up in that environment. So being in that environment, I got involved in drugs at a very early age. And not just smoking marijuana, but also selling it. Find myself doing it in school and the community. And that's how I survived in terms of getting my uniform for school. But I said all of that to bring it to this point. Just like we see all of this behind here, we have to remember the Bible says that we were created in the image and the likeness of God. Once you see who image you are created in, you will now begin to identify your purpose. The thing for me was, what helped me to change is a change of mindset. What young men need to do is have a change of mindset. You can look all messed up. You can have a bad start in life. You can come from a dysfunctional environment or a dysfunctional home, but you don't have to stay there. I didn't stay there. Although my parents were not together and everything seems all messed up, and all of the drinking and the smoking and the abuse that I've seen in my environment, I realized there was a silver lining behind the dark cloud, and I made my way to process onto a more positive path.
I want to hear more about the drinking and process and on that whole process and abuse, because that's what we are seeing mirrored so much in our society now. But just before we take a break, Mr. Burrows, you are in farming, and one of the things that I could say about you, your enthusiasm inspires me. We're here for BAIC, and I have had the privilege over the last few years to do some teaching at BAIC. So I'm a witness to the kind of commitment that you have poured into the ministry in training and activating the interest. What would you say where we are today of Bahamians' understanding? And we're going to talk more about this in a minute. Do you think we understand, looking at the global community, that we must consider, plan, prepare, and be in a position to execute for any threat to food security?
Well, I'll say this. Coming off of COVID-19, we saw a renewed interest in local produce, to the extent that on a Friday when the boats came in, we had lines around the corner. We never thought we'd see that type of interest, because it was always, the local crops were always looked down on. Okay, but I can tell you, working in agriculture, our farmers grow the best fruits and vegetables on the market. They're also fresher, they're healthier. So But there is much more education. Bahamians need to be more sensitized to the health and nutritional value, okay, that helps build up the body, but more education about supporting local industries as well, as it relates to building up our own economy. So there's much more work to be done where that is concerned.
We can take a page out of the book of the Chinese. They don't have anything waste. Just look at this coconut. Oh, you mean they got coconut oil is some of the high grade, most healthy, in great demand. But what we do is we look at this as too much hard work. Hey, do we break off running? No, we ain't breaking off running no more. Stay tuned, we'll be back in a moment. If Bahamians want to know where to go for help at BAIC, where they go?
Well, BAIC has different departments that has different functions. If you're looking for value-added products, okay, we have a manager in BAIC in Tonja Burrows. She deals directly with all of the processes, and depending on what it is that you're looking for, she can direct you to a processor. Okay, we also do, at the Produce Exchange, provide some processed items as well, if you're looking for Bahamian products. If you're looking for fresh fruits and vegetables, okay, I invite everybody to come down to the Produce Exchange. Best prices in town. The produce is fresh. I can assure you what you see on the shelves in the Produce Exchange, harvest date may have been Wednesday, arriving Friday, and it may very well, maybe slightly run over into the next week. Now, what you see imported, well, that's another conversation.
You don't know what mix up in there.
So,
but you don't say it, I'll say it for you, okay?
Billy Graham once said that a good father is one of the most unsung, unpraised, unnoticed, and yet one of the most valuable assets in our society. As we seek to uplift and strengthen family ties, we want to take the time out to praise the fathers who are taking care of their families. Whether you are married or a single father, we want to salute you for taking up the charge to lead, provide, and protect your family. For those who are struggling with fatherhood, all is not lost. It is not too late to be the needed father to your children. We urge you to step up for your children and be the father they need and deserve. If you need help, contact the Department of Social Services National Parenting Program that can assist in placing you on the right path to being a good father.
You know, if we don't have an understanding of the value of agriculture, I like to go back to the beginning. Great leaders lead for 3 tenses. Constitutionally, we are a Christian nation, so that's the value system that this country is governed by. So we believe in the Garden of Eden, and there were some priorities set to bring order, and that is communication. Communication is when the intended message gets to the intended listener. Somehow there's noise where we are not getting the understanding of the priority that agriculture holds in the stability, the growth, the development of a country. So the 2 industries, from the beginning, principles don't change, nor do they discriminate. So it didn't change because 4 billion years ago they said the earth existed, and whatever, 350 million years, they're saying that human beings were living on the planet Earth. Over all those years, the principles don't change. Word created this world, so communication is the number 1 industry. The first minister of agriculture fisheries was Adam, and gave us the potential of what we have in all of us, because Adam still has a legacy today. He named the grouper and the crawfish, right? He had that rulership mantle that we all have. That's the purpose of mankind on earth, to be a ruler of industry. And we have dismissed generally speaking, in our attitude, the second industry established in the world, the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries. What and where have we gone wrong with that, Mr. Burrows?
Well, I think it's just an appreciation for agriculture, and our people needing to understand that agriculture it should be a national interest for every Bahamian citizen. You know, we look at post 9/11, we look at COVID, when we started to see the shipments of food into our country, being a nation that imports 90% of the food that we eat. And we saw where the U.S. and other suppliers may have pulled back some on their exports to us. Think about that moving forward and our inability to feed ourselves. We say it a lot, but does it really resonate with our people and let them understand that going into a food store tomorrow and nothing on the shelf and the seriousness of that? So again, when I say to you that this is of national interest, I think every Bahamian citizen in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas needs to understand and appreciate the critical need for us to build our agricultural sector.
Well, we can just hear on international news every day on the network channels, they're talking about some of the food supplies cannot get to the food stores. There are some places where the shelves are empty. We import 90%, as you just said. Is it because we have not shifted sufficiently in our mindset to prepare for what we see coming and not wait until Dorian arrives, not wait until the pandemic arrives? What you are here representing the ministry. What is the ministry doing to help advance and continue to ensure that there's progress in shifting this mindset?
Well, I'll say this. Last year, under the leadership of our minister, the Honorable General Campbell, and now our current chairman, Senator Darren Pickstock, the AIC has commenced on a pilot that we executed last year in North Andros. We call it, it was initially the North Andros pilot. Now it is moved to the commercialization of agriculture. You would hear me talk about commercializing agriculture quite a bit. And so what we did is we went into North Andros and we had all of the bigger buyers here in New Providence. They traveled along with us to go to North Andros to meet with farmers. Crops were identified that the buyers had specific interest in. We got farmers to agree to grow those crops for those buyers. And what we saw as a result of that was very encouraging. And you hear people talk about buyers not being interested in buying. I can say that is further from the truth. Once you can grow based on their standards and requirements, buyers are looking for local product. And so we saw flatbeds of produce being shipped to buyers through that program. And so now what we saw the success in it. We are now expanding on that project. We just went into Eleuthera last month, I think it was, where we're now engaging with Eleuthera farmers to bring them along. Because again, even what we grew was only around 4 particular crops. Okay, and so we're now looking at how we expand that into the Eleuthera, and we want to expand it incrementally, strategically throughout the entire length and breadth for wherever we have farmers.
What do you see here? Because, you know, a small business, there's a cry among the small business community, and it doesn't feel like there's a kind of support in the small business community. Mr. Burrows, y'all may be related. 2 Burrows. That wasn't planned, okay? Everything happens organically here. We make change a friend and not an enemy. But here's a small businessman. Oh, Lord, when you hear the stories, but trying to find funding, because when the more you manifest some of your dream, you need more money. But it don't look like it's, is it really as small business friendly? Are you working on trying to be able to adjust in that environment so hardworking men like him can realize his dream with the financial support?
Well, funding is really not in my area, as I pretty much deal with agricultural marketing, but I can say, having sit in some meetings with Bahamas Development Bank, SBDC, funding is available. Do I say sufficient? Well, you know, that's another conversation, but there is funding available. A lot of times we find that farmers, and I'm not talking about my cousin over here, but farmers don't meet the criteria. Remember, one of the things that BAIC is also trying to train farmers in and understanding farming as a business. not so much a hobby. It is a labor of love. We get that. But you also, when you talk about commercial agriculture, you got to treat it like a business. You got to run it like a business. It means that you have to keep records. That means that you have to monitor your funding. So it's not a lack of interest in our funding organizations, because we don't have just unlimited funds in the Bahamas, but it's not a lack of interest because the government has put in place funding. The farmers' ability to access it proves to be a challenge, because a lot of farmers, again, and if you look at our agricultural population in the age, 60 and above, and they don't really, have a lot of time. So I think we got to get a little bit better on how we help them with record keeping and preparing financials, et cetera. Because again, financial institutions want to look at all of these elements to ensure that, this is an investment for them. Okay, so everybody has to be protected. So I wouldn't say that, it's not available, but we have to now maybe train our farmers and the producers a little bit better on how to access it.
Financial literacy, you mean?
Definitely.
Okay. I know you have to go, and I'm so sorry we got to lose you in this segment. To move on to make more opportunities for the people of the Bahamas. I appreciate that. But look at this environment of Ralph Burrows and what he has created. What do you see as the potential with coconut and the diversity of opportunities that would be like a lesson to you and I who don't know much? I know I like jelly coconut. I love it. But, I know you got the palm oil, the coconut oil, and these, and we are the highest in some of the health issues because of our eating habits, whether it's cancer and hypertension and diabetes and all these kinds of things. It stems from what we eat. It's the environment. And again, this time internally, what do you see? And give him some advice, because I've sat in meetings with you. You are a vote of wisdom. And again, the other part of shifting a mindset is honoring our Bahamians who invest their time in developing skill and see them as equals to anybody who sits around the table around the world when they are competent in what they do. Tell us, what would you say to him the opportunity is, and how can he move forward?
Well, initially 2 words: opportunity, potential. What I see with this program here, I'm very pleased. Having this been the first time I've been out here, I didn't even know this was around. I see vast potential, particularly one that can support backyard programs initially. I'd like to see it scale up to actually going into the commercial agricultural space. But this is vast opportunities to the extent that I have some other ideas and recommendations, but I'll run it through my superiors first. But yeah, I love the concept. It's natural. I kind of shy away from organic, because organic brings other implications and conversations, but it is as natural as you're going to get. And feeding our soils with the best organic matter is critical to success and our ability to grow. So I see vast potential. And I'd like to have a different conversation with Mr. Boris as it relates to some potential.
But this is exactly what we want to do. Build that culture where we help each other succeed. He didn't expect to come here this morning. You make change your friend and not your enemy. It rained heavily last night where we were going on an actual farm. It was too muddy, so we adjusted. You see, in life, you have to make some adjustments. So as he said, this is the first time he's been here. But guess what? He has adjusted, and he has recognized the opportunity, and he's taking a step to say, well, not only do I recognize it, let you and I talk and see if this potential can become what your vision is manifested. I just want to thank you so much. We're going to take a break just after this, but just before you go, and we're going to come back and align the abusive nature that we have to have a coup on abuse, on crime, on selfishness, on greed. And if we get to the bottom, the root, and we uproot where this contaminated fruit is coming from, we're going to be the greatest little nation in the world. Final words as you leave.
I encourage every Bahamian under the sound of my breath, support your local farmers, support your local industries, not only with regard to fresh crops, but the value-added products that Bahamian producers are doing, projects like Mr. Burrows, my good cousin here, is doing. Support your local industry, because empowering your local industry is by directly empowering you.
Thank you. I look forward to working with BAIC. That's what we're going to do at social services because it's together. You know that every one of us in the ministries have core competencies, and the lack of food creates a lot of demand on social services. But we want all of our clients to be healthy, from dependency, self-sufficiency to economic empowerment. We'll be back in a moment.
You can now stay in tune with all things social services on any one of our social media platforms: TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, missed any of our Taking Social Services to the People programs? No worries. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Bahamas Heartbeat, to watch all of our programs and special content. Social Services is the heartbeat of the nation, taking our clients from dependency to self-sufficiency to economic empowerment.
Welcome back. Our program today, looking back to move forward. And when we look back just a few minutes ago, we saw the unattractive sight of the coconuts. We're going to show the forward movement of this season of the vision of Ralph Burrows. And scenery has changed to beautiful greenery. Green is life. Green is wealth. And they are wealthy in their health because of the soil, the end product. This is the end product after processing. But before we get to that, let's talk about the process. The process of getting the soil, and in a farm environment, the fruit is healthy. We, in our previous segment, we talked about abuse. I want to talk about the past just for a little bit longer and talk about where we are for the context of where we are going, because this is the corridor of Nassau. I want Ralph Burrows, thank you so much once again for hosting us on your dream, and we're going to be following you to see how you grow and how you develop. It's just like a fetus in a pregnant woman, you know. You have the egg that grows and needs an environment. You can't eat, you shouldn't drink alcohol, and the things that you intake will affect the quality of life of your fetus. This is the corridor. Speak to the meaning of corridor to Nassau and the way forward in your vision and business.
Well, I was beyond not being ready for this location. This location in itself is any farmer's dream come true. Main road, traffic, 24/7. You get advertised without advertising. That's how blessed this location is as far as redirection of material. You know, truckers always looking for someplace convenient, not to go the long way or to puncture their tires or to lose time off the route. You know, the truck life is important as far as functionality and the actual location. So if you could find an area that's capable of accepting that particular load that you happen to be harvesting that day, that's right up a trucker's dream for that job, because the quicker he gets in, the quicker he can get them loaded, he can get back, he could get the material out. You know, you get equipment on site, you could help them take out if they stuck. You could make a track for them specifically depending on what their truck load is that day. But all of that happens when you have premium location. You're able to create a mobile unit along with the day-to-day operations of the country.
That's really very good, because we have a mobile unit from them in the Ministry of Social Services where it's accessible, where it can carry the load, where we are building the infrastructure, where we can see that there is a paradigm shift, that we perceive people in the Ministry of Social Services as, not what it is. We don't perceive that we have a young man who started this program with the foundation, with the coconut soil, that directs the men to say, you have a purpose. You have a reason why you were born. But you got on one track road that you talked about because of what turned you to drugs in your young years. You went on that wasn't a corridor, that was a bush track road. You had the bush down, them cutlass, how you'd go through a cutlass and make it a little track road. What happened? Good looking fella like you. What was the cause and the effect of choosing drug over success?
Well, Dr. Miles Monroe said something that is so important and profound. He said that where purpose is unknown, abuse is inevitable. And because I didn't know my purpose, growing up in a time where, we were poor people, live in a 2-bedroom house, no bathroom, no light, no water, had outside, toilet outside, kitchen. And we didn't have the necessities, the necessities that we see today. And, because of that, I wanted what I saw. I saw some of the materialistic things, and I went out on a hunt to be like some of the men that was in my time who had the flashy car, who had the drugs, who had the money, and who had the nice clothes. So I started on that path also. I remember there were times when, you would go, if you know Andros, low sound, and red bass, you would know that they were not always upgraded. And, we would walk to the seashore and see bags, not bags, but you would see the marijuana on the seashore washing in. So I started what everybody else was doing. And after seeing, people in my community, they smoking, they drinking, and I started to do the same thing. And from a very young age, I remember myself picking up cigarette butts, and I graduated from the cigarette butts, started smoking marijuana, and to the point then start selling it. But it's all because of looking at the lack thereof. Also not knowing what my purpose was, who I was as an individual, because I didn't see much of it demonstrated around me.
What did your parents do? God bless any parent.
Mm-hmm.
Honor your mother and your father, and say what kind of mother, what kind of father.
Right.
So your days may be long.
Right.
But, the parents have the governing authority and responsibility
Yes.
to train a child in the way it should go. What happened to yours?
Well, I've been in at the age of 4 years old, I could remember. Before transitioning to Andros as a little boy, we lived in Abaco, and my mom and my father, they had a separation. In that separation, there was a division. I was taken to Andros with my siblings, who were the older ones, and my mom at the time, because they didn't like what was going on, so everybody left. And after the separation, I never saw my dad until I was from 4 years old to 13 years old. So I didn't have that, like some people may have. I didn't have the mommy and the daddy in the home and, watching this beautiful life. So I had to learn from what I saw. And I can say that my mom at the time, she was on alcohol, and she also engaged in cigarette smoking, marijuana, and all of that other stuff. And coming up in that environment, it kind of like take me on the wrong path. She was not the only one, but there were others in my community who was doing the same thing, relatives who were doing the same thing, and I kind of like pick up the habit. I think a lot of times this is what happens to our young people, our young men, and in particular the environment that they grow up in, because of the dysfunction of it. They get involved in some things and they want to get more, but they go about it the wrong way, I would say.
What got you on track?
It's a long process. What got me on track is, after completing high school, I didn't complete high school with a good BJC or BGCSE. I never did BJCs. I did BGCSEs. It was poor, and I'm saying that for a reason. I had a sister who didn't spare the rod. She didn't spare the rod, and she helped to keep me on track through that way. But through the process of time, being around other men who I saw had some potential, who were doing good things, I kind of like differentiate, okay, should I continue going this way or should I go that way? And I began to look at some men who were doing some positive things and getting advice from them. And I started to make the adjustments in my life. But I would top it off by saying this. My mother was also instrumental. Although she had her dysfunctions, she was also instrumental because I would always be around my mommy. She never allowed me to go without something to eat. She never abandoned me, and that was like getting kind of emotional, but that was very important to me. She never abandoned me. But one of the things that happened is through her life, because of the addiction of alcoholism and smoking marijuana and cigarette and all of that, she got sick. And after her getting sick, what happened was our relationship get even stronger. And while she was in the hospital, I could remember between the years of 2004 to 2010 is her going into the hospital because she had, they found a tumor on her voice box, and that tumor was cancerous. So she had to go through rehabilitation, and she had to do the chemo and the chemo and the other one, radiation. Yeah, she had to do those things. And what happened was I had to be there with her because she was living here with me in Nassau. So our relationship, I had to read the Bible to her, pray for her, read the Bible, pray every day. I go to the hospital, make sure she's all right, check up on her until up to the time of her demise in 2010. But that helped to bring me closer to God, that relationship and that bond that my mom and I had, then reading the Bible to her, praying for her. And one time she said to me, she said, you know something, Naro? Because she called me my short name. She said, Naro, I remember there was a time you used to read your Bible, you used to pray, you used to go to church. What happened to you? And that clicked to me. And from on that part, I said, you know something, I got to make some changes because I was really wild and getting myself into some activities that I know it would get me either in prison or I'd have been dead. So that helped to make me make the changes that was necessary for where I am right now.
I'm really so touched and so moved because you just represent so many of our men. Hope is favorable, confident expectation. I'm sure that they felt your heart. We felt his heart. He felt his heart. And as we take a break and close up in the next segment and talk to Mr. Burrows, because he has a different story. Not everybody's story is the same story. He, as far as I can see, I don't know what happens at home. I have 2 grandsons, and I don't have any children biologically, but I've adopted a daughter and 2 grandsons, Eric and Elijah. And Eric used to go to the Royal, what do you call it? Royal Kids.
Yeah.
And I would see Mr. Ralph Burrows just proudly dropping off his children to school every morning with love, with direction. See, if you always describe a problem, you become more of the problem. We have good men. And the history sometimes look like them unattractive coconut. But when they get in the right environment for this, we can show you, they're right here, the soil that makes us healthy and puts us on a path to be governed by peace and prosperity. When we come back, we're going to hear Mr. Ralph Burrows, and both of them are going to wrap up. Oh boy, when you're learning so much, time goes by quickly. Thank you for staying with us. We'll be back in a moment.
Children are a heritage from the Lord. That's right, you, the one listening to this video. You are a special gift to your parents. Gifts are meant to be a source of happiness and joy, and we pray that you be that gift to your parents or guardians. We hear it time and time again that this generation is lost. In the Department of Gender and Family Affairs, in the Ministry of Social Services, Information, and Broadcasting, we don't believe that. We believe that every generation of youth and children faces their own challenges, and you are facing your own set of challenges, but we want you to know that we see you. We see those of you who are going to school and doing your best. We see those of you who are striving for greatness in your various endeavors. We see those of you who, in spite of the mistakes you've made, are working to be better versions of yourselves. We see you and we are pulling for you. So don't give up when things don't go your way. It's just life teaching you a lesson. Don't give in when the crowd pressures you. Standing on your own only makes you stronger. Do listen to your parents. They have been where you are and know just a little more than you do. Last but not least, do treat others as you would want to be treated.
This is our final segment. And you know what I was thinking about, in every one opportunity, there are multiple opportunities. This is the coconut. Doesn't that look rich? Isn't that an attractive thing over there, right? But before it got there on the heap, it was on the coconut tree looking attractive, and we have some coconut climbers here who can just scale up that coconut tree and get those coconuts, and we can't wait to have that jelly and that coconut there, and we make the coconut tarts, and we could sell the coconut tarts, and we just need a little bit more vision here, and then we make the coconut tarts for export for all of the tables in the hotel. See, vision multiplies. You take a step, and when you take that step, you see more. What we need, I'm sure, you would agree with me, many of you would agree with me, some of us just need to relocate. Your company gives you a glimpse of your future. And in farming, sometimes what we did is we are relocating in Mr. Burrows' vision, the coconut being wasted and littering some of the side roads, and the Ministry of Environment seem to be doing a good job at cleaning that up, but he is helping them clean that up. But I heard you talk about the shock treatment. Talk about that. What is that with relocation, as it relates to relocation?
So in my work, we deal with heavy equipment, land clearing, earthworks, and some clients, they're passionate about their trees also. So they want you to not get rid of their tree, but relocate it. But there's a sensitive process in that, because to uproot something is to take away the roots, the balance, the strength, the core, the water, the integrity of, back and forth, side to side, all of the information this gentleman spoke about earlier. So to be relocated and to be replanted, there's a process, and that called a shock to the tree. So the tree sometimes gets shocked. It struggles to remobilize. It struggles to send its roots back out, depending on how the company would have disrupted it, taken it out. How close did they cut the roots? Was it too close and it's ineligible to thrive again? Is it too big, and then they put it in the wrong place where it's a rocky area, the root struggling to get its tentacles out to find water. So understanding the relocation process was exactly what I went through, moving from the health and safety environment of, overseeing persons day to day, overseeing contractors, overseeing equipment. But to fast forward that, I then realized all that was the information I needed to inherit this, because this was so bigger than an office. This was so bigger than understanding what I didn't understand. That's
right.
They're the tricky ones there.
Right.
Once that we think, I get a piece of land, I could get some soil, I could put down some trees and they can grow. Whoa. It don't rain every day. The water I getting, the pressure always low. It costs this amount to prepare the land what they give me. I off the grid, I have to worry about people using my things when I tell them they could use it. So
You have a lot of that?
understanding the trigonometry of the pyramid was the relocation. Where is it a good place for me to end up? Where is a good place for me to restart? Because it ain't just me. You look on your shoulder and you get your family. You get your responsibilities. You get your future. You get your ideas that people don't understand. Some days you start to question yourself if you really even understand it. And when you add all of those components together and start to flesh out, and you get a particular, and you get a situation, then you get a concern, then you get a, every now and again, you just look forward to your little rewards. For the plan, that's when it rains. 100%. They love that. You see them at their strongest. All the chloroplasm and the photosynthesis, all that working now. They green, they in the element exactly. They could feel the energy from the sun. All of the components is about the relocation, and that's what makes that's the hardest part. Becoming uncomfortable to figure out how long you would take to get comfortable again.
Powerful. We have just 2 more minutes left. You were relocated from the drug culture to an effective leader, inspiring men to relocate. What are the principles that you have learned, and what would you say to the parents, the men, the Bahamians, the people of the Bahamas with a dream?
First thing I want to say is one of the quotes by Les Brown. He said, life has no limitations except what we give it. And persons must understand that you are not defined by your mistakes. One of the things that I have coined and realizing how important it is for me as a young man, and I want to say thanks to even my leaders for giving me the opportunity to be in this role as a men's desk officer in the Ministry of Social Services, Information and Broadcasting, Department of Gender and Family Affairs. I want to give thanks to them for this opportunity of being there. But what I recognize is that me as an individual, I have to first find my purpose. And identifying my purpose is to help other people identify their purpose and help them to maximize their potential. Every one of us have potential. And like I said, we are not defined by the mistakes we made. Whatever you have went through in the past, you can overcome that. You have to make a conscious decision that you want to be transformed. You have to make a conscious decision that you are not going to allow your circumstances to dictate where your life is going to go. There's a character in the Bible. His name is Apostle Paul. And many of us would have known Apostle Paul. He, before being Apostle Paul, he was Saul, and he used to persecute the Christian church. He was a murderer. And his life was changed because of the encounter that he had with the Lord Jesus Christ. Because of the encounter that I had, it helped me to change. You can have that same encounter. He also said that you must not be conformed to the things of this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that you will prove what is that good, perfect, and acceptable will of God. So with that to start, firstly, me understanding who God is, that I was made in his image and his likeness. Secondly, I had to recognize that I had people who were dependent on me, because from the age of 19, I had my first daughter. My second daughter I had when I was in my 30s. And I had to realize that they were dependent on me. So I had to make a conscious decision to make adjustments with my life, because I wanted them to see that I can be a mentor and a role model. So parents, make the adjustment that is necessary for your children to see. Everything that you do either have a positive or a negative impact on the life, particularly our young men, have a negative effect on them or a positive one. And I would conclude with saying this: you are not a mistake. You are here for a divine purpose. And although you may have made some mistakes, God can still use that hard, raw material, that hard data, to make a positive impact in this nation and also in the world. You have purpose. Understand that and walk in it.
We have to go now, and there's still some dirt on my hands. We have all fallen short. And we can decide whether we're going to let our mistakes hold us hostage, hold our future hostage, or we're going to relocate. But understand that wherever you are is really to help somebody else. And our focus is to be the best self. Wherever you find yourself at work, all great things begin small, and there's honor and honest labor. Be your best where you are, because like Mr. Burrows said, what he learned, he wouldn't tell you. He was the attaché to Smeralian, who was the visionary for Bahama. But he left the comfort of what we call the white-collar opportunity to live his dream with the earth and help all of us to live more healthy. And just look at his relocation. He made the right relocation. You can relocate right back into garbage heap over there in those coconuts that are unattractive and all the little BB flies and stuff all over the place. Or you can relocate where your roots fit. What is your root? You were born for a purpose. And when you don't know your purpose, that's where envy and greed comes in. And you try to steal other people's idea, and you don't know you've signed up to be a counterfeit. Social services wants you. Agriculture. Anyone who loves people wants you to be your best self. Thank you for watching. And determine that if you are at this point of dependency, know that there's a path, there's a corridor to self-sufficiency and economic empowerment. And if you are there, economically empowered, there's a responsibility to look for the mindset, the heart, the work ethic to pull somebody else up. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
This has been a production of the Ministry of Social Services, Information and Broadcasting, the heartbeat of the nation, where we move our clients from dependency to self-sufficiency to economic empowerment.